What is up, everybody? Josh Tapp here again, and welcome back to the Lucky Titan. Today, we're here with the famous Jeff Lerner, right? You guys have probably heard his name everywhere, seen his YouTube ads, been through his program. This guy is the founder of EntreNation. He's done 2 Inc. 5000 companies, and he's the host of the Unlock Your Potential podcast, which I've actually been binging for the last month, Jeff. So I'm excited to kind of pick your brain on some of the things that you talk about on there. But first off, Jeff, say what's up and let's hop in, man.
Man, I'm so glad to be here. This is honestly, I pinched myself that I'm sure you feel the same way. Like we're actually at work right now.
I know.
It's kind of like, this is a job and we just get to hang out and get to know each other. So wouldn't want to be anywhere else, man. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, and I'm glad you're here, man. When your people reached out to me, I have a guy on my team who runs my calendar and he's like, Jeff Lerner's team just pitched you. I've been through his program. And I'm like, I've heard your name over and over and over again. I'm like, I should probably dive into this guy's stuff. And I've been seeing, all the different media channels that you have. And it actually sparked one of my first questions for you, which is when it comes to media, it comes to marketing your company, right? You've done probably everything under the sun at this point. What have you found to be the most effective for marketing EntreNation?
Well, I think it's a two-pronged approach, right? And assuming that most of your audience doesn't have, venture capital companies backing their businesses, because then that's a whole separate conversation, because they kind of, they live in the land of funny money and they don't have real problems to deal with.
And I'll make it easy for you. None of them do, because we're like total anti that here. So.
Okay, cool. Then I mean, we have two facets to that question, right? Number one is I'm hungry, I need to eat, so I need to kill something so that I can eat. And the other is I have a long trajectory. I have a big vision and mission and something meaningful I want to do in the world. So I don't want to build a brand long-term entirely based on killing and eating my customers. I want to take a more nurturing, maternal approach to my life and business. And that's a duality, right? It's like, you can't just go out into the market and be like the nice value guy only, who never sells anything, who never brings people to that precipice or that tension of okay, I need your credit card,
right?
Or else you're just the nice guy with a hobby, not a business. But on the flip side, the direct response customer acquisition psychology of marketing, the world has evolved to where you can't only live in that space either, or else eventually you'll hit a point of diminishing returns where you can't acquire customers anymore because you haven't built the brand reputation and the goodwill to be able to keep fighting the fight. And so what I have found is that it's hard, because if you overcorrect in one direction or the other, and that's what I see most people do, because most people in the kind of like being an entrepreneur is hard, right? And when you're starting something, or you're let's call it small, let's call it sub 10 million in revenue, right? You typically don't have a big enough team to play all the games well. So you're trying to, process of elimination, okay, what's the one thing that I'm focusing on, right? Or we read Gary Keller's The One Thing, and we're like, yeah, that's it. I need to do one thing really well. And so for most small businesses, it's I need to acquire customers really well. And you do that. And then it starts to get harder to scale, or it's harder to keep customer. It's easier to get them than to keep them, but then that gets more expensive because you churn through your easiest customers first, and then it's the harder customers to acquire. And, as the net widens, the targeting diffuses and the costs go up. And so the hard answer to your question is, what I have found to work the best is to accept the responsibility to do both simultaneously and do both of them well. I have to have direct response marketing in the market that converts, but it has to be built on a base and a foundation of goodwill and extreme value, and playing the long, patient game that ideally I can do both at the same time. But if I'm forced to choose between acquiring a customer and winning the affinity of a potential customer, I'll delay the acquisition and err on the side of affinity.
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it actually sparks another question for me. It's been interesting to watch in the market recently. We've seen that there's so many different lead magnets out there now. I think Russell Brunson, you're a Two Comma Club guy, right? Russell Brunson has been one of the guys to really highly promote doing lead magnet sales funnel, and all these different other people are promoting it too. And so you see that process, it works well. But what's interesting is you talk about leading with that extreme value. And we see that a lot of people are trying to just get by with as little value as they can possibly give for quote unquote free, and that was one of the things that really appealed to me about your company. I think you guys have done a great job of that upfront value. And I'm curious for you, what is that value that you're providing to people, pre acquisition of client?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it's done through social media content. Some of it is done through an ebook, and I'm actually going to put an asterisk next to that and say, I don't love the ebook that we currently have in the market. It was written by a copywriter. It wasn't written by me. Mm-hmm. And it was done, as a matter of expedience, and it was kind of good enough and it got us off the ground, but I'm in the process. I just like to over deliver. I mean, I'm in the process right now. And by the time this airs, it might be out certainly within a few weeks of rewriting an ebook. But even I'll just use my ebook as an example. Most people say, oh, I download the free ebook and then, watch my sales video. Right. And you download it and it's, what's a free ebook? What do you, in fact, let me ask you, what are you expecting with a free ebook?
Right. To me, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that. I'm like, that's too much time for me to have to commit to something unless it's really solving a real need for me. But like my expectation is to come with just a good takeaway.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm writing a free ebook that I think could reasonably sit on a shelf at Barnes and Noble and probably sell for 15 or 20 bucks. It's going to be about 120 pages.
Wow.
It's going to be deeply thoughtful. It's going to be well written. It's going to have visuals. And that's just an example of, like, most people, if they're going to write a free ebook, they're going to create it as quickly and efficiently as possible. For me, I've been working on this free ebook for 3 months. I get up at 2, 3 in the morning and I walk around the streets outside my gym. I meet my trainer at 4:30. And every day for the last couple months, I've been walking around for an hour before my trainer gets there, dictating this free ebook into my phone. And my goal is to write a free ebook that somebody goes, man, I would have paid 20 bucks for this at Barnes and Noble. My YouTube channel, my goal with my YouTube channel is to have a YouTube channel that delivers more practical value for an entrepreneur than an Ivy League MBA, completely for free. And there's kind of a gluttony and an obsession that I think you have to develop, where it's like, I actually want to be the guy that suffers most and asks for the least, because my clients will feel that. They'll go, man, nobody has ever given me this much for free. I don't know what this guy's selling, but I can't wait to see it. And, yeah. and that's a long, slow burn of an approach. And if you don't like it, get a job. You're in the wrong business.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching, the statistic where they talk about it's like 95% of businesses fail. I can't remember who told this, but it's basically that 5% are the people, if you actually look at how long they've been in business versus the other people, it's simply because they stuck it out longer. And it's really intriguing. I wish I had the statistic off the top of my head, but I thought it was so intriguing because it's like 80% or something like that of businesses. It's those who stuck with it.
I'll use myself as an example. People think like, oh yeah, in 2008, he went online and my story's reasonably well told at this point. In 2008, I went online and I paid off $500,000 in debt in 18 months with, internet marketing. And I was this quick study. I was like this internet prodigy or whatever. Yeah. But how the heck did I end up $500,000 in debt?
Right.
That was my 11th consecutive failed business from 16 to 29 years old, 13 years, 11 that I've counted. It might've been more failures. And every one of those failures, you iterate, you change products, you change markets, whatever. But if you really just consider it to be one long entrepreneurial journey, I'd been in business for 13 years before I became a quick study. And I'd had 11 different pretty magnificent failures. And you're right. It's like, what are your priorities? I literally just got off a coaching call with somebody. He's a guy in our mastermind that I run. And he was having this kind of moment of self-doubt and insecurity. And I was asking him, I'm like, what's in your head right now? Like, what are you thinking about? And it's the usual. He's got like a baby on the way and he doesn't want to disappoint his wife. And he's got certain pressures, and he actually lost his job. So and I'm like, you're allowing present circumstances to define you and to drive you in the moment, when in reality, we must always be driven by timeless principles and first principles, or else we're subordinating ourselves to, temporal, superficial concerns. And the first principles that should always drive us, what is my truth? What is my calling? What is my created purpose in the world? What is my integrity? What is my needs of soul? And people say, oh, that's a highfalutin conversation. You can't afford to have that conversation until you've got your basic needs met. And, oh, that must be a luxury you get to play at the fifth level of Maslow's hierarchy because you've already ascended through the four. Bullshit, man. You don't get to the fifth unless you start with the fifth.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is just society hijacking your mind to try to tell you what your priorities are.
Right. Yeah, I love that. You know, it's funny, and this is what was in my research when I was looking you up and doing my deep dive. On your LinkedIn profile, you mentioned, I'm gonna have to read it. I'm gonna have to pull it up here, but you basically mentioned that you want to play in Carnegie Hall, right? You've done the business thing. You want to there's one other thing, and I need to actually pull it up, but I thought it was so awesome because you're like, I'm not just an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, I have figured out who I am. And yeah. I'll tell you exactly what it says. I'm trying to I know it says, I'm trying to be the first billionaire founder who plays in Carnegie Hall and also deadlifts 3 times his body weight.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So look, I weighed 179 pounds this morning. So I think 3 times my body weight would be 537 pounds. You can check that math.
I'm horrible with math, so that's me.
And my deadlift right now is probably about 450. So I got about 80 pounds to go there. I'm not a billionaire yet. I have some pretty ambitious designs, but it'll probably still take me 10 or 20 years. That's cool. I mean, what's the hurry? Just
right.
Shrug off this mortal coil and perchance to sleep what dreams may come. I mean, we're going to die, and what we do until then is what matters, I guess. And at some point, I don't think I'll actually qualify to play at Carnegie Hall solely on the basis of virtuoso technique. But I think I'll reach a point where I have amalgamated enough influence and enough results and enough intrigue and curiosity where people go, man, who is this wildly successful entrepreneur guy that also is like super fit and is also like a shockingly good piano player? Just that in and of itself, I think will be a draw that can fill the hall.
Yeah.
And they'll let me play. And I came up with that as something that's like, okay, what can I, and people think like, oh, that's hyperbole or that's just silliness. No, that's actually my goal.
Right.
I want $1 billion net worth. I want to deadlift 3 times my body weight, and I want to play at Carnegie Hall. And when I play at Carnegie Hall, it will be while able. In fact, I might even deadlift 3 times my body weight on stage at Carnegie Hall, and then flash a balance sheet of my net worth, and then sit down and play. Like it's got to all happen at the same time, because what I know is the relentless pursuit of that will give me one of the most interesting and enjoyable lives I could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And otherwise, what the hell are we doing? Boring ourselves to death, literally?
Yeah. You should just deadlift the piano. That's what you should do.
That's a great idea. I could have handles attached to the piano and
with the leverage of it, you're like, bam. I think that'd be awesome.
No,
I've helped people move pianos enough times to know that that is what requires deadlifting, is lifting those stinking things. So I don't play piano. I play guitar, which it's much lighter to lift that. So I wouldn't be able to do the same thing. But it's kind of like sparks the curiosity for me, because recently I've been so about a year ago, my wife was like, you need to get a hobby that's not business, and I was, because I'd work and I'd come home and I'd like research about it stuff because it was fun to me, did my MBA just because I thought it'd be fun. Right.
Mhm.
And she has really understood that. She came to me and was like, what are some other things that you want to become good at? And I started getting into fitness because I was getting really fat. I was like 220 in July of last year, down to 188. So I feel pretty happy about that.
Nice.
but that was the first time in my life I've really actually gotten into fitness. But I've been finding all these different things that have started to interest me. And so I'm curious with you, because you talk about those are like 3 massive goals that are going to require a lot of attention and focus. But do you feel like it's okay to go off and get good enough at other things? Or do you feel like you should just hyper target and hyper focus on, 1 to 3 things?
Yeah. I mean, I say a lot that good is the enemy of great. And it was one of the hardest things for me in life, ultimately, to make choices and make cuts. I think you have to understand the fundamental needs of human beings in general. And then obviously yourself as an individual. I tend to organize life around the physical, the personal, and the professional. And I, one of the things we dive deep in at Entra, my company, is we have very detailed frameworks for how we understand the human organism, our mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, sociological needs, et cetera. And we don't consider ourselves really a business education platform, even though that's why a lot of people come to us. It's like, hey, I want to learn to build a business. I want to make some money or whatever. We consider ourselves a life design platform, where it's like, we're going to architect, engineer, and construct the entirety of a life that you will be so stoked about on the day you die that you will have no regrets. And that's why we exist. And I try to be the best student. I used to have I don't anymore because I'm the founder and everybody wants to know that, right? But my email signature used to say valedictorian class of Entra. I was just trying to be the best student of that philosophy, right?
Yeah.
And I still am. And so I have basically decided that I have to make choices, and I have to assemble a relatively small basket of interests that I know check the holistic set of boxes that lead to a completely fulfilled and rich life. And so, it's not like pick one thing, but it's also like, I don't know that you're going to get that with 20 things, or you're going to end up as a jack of all trade and master of none. So for me, I have like a small set of things, right? I have my reading, writing, and personal development, which is all kind of like a cluster. It's like I'm reading and I'm processing what I'm reading through thought and through writing. And that's sort of like a triangle in and of itself. I have my music, I have my fitness, I have my family, and I have my business. And to be honest, I only sleep 5 hours a night. And what I just described uses up all 19 hours of the day.
Wow.
So I don't think I'd have room for a 6th, but I want for nothing. I cannot remember the last time that I wasn't like awestruck at my own happiness, joy, and fulfillment in my own life by being that methodical and frankly boring. Because when you have everything you want and you intentionally fill your life with the few things that complete you, the idea of like vacations, I get super annoyed at vacations. I get super annoyed at holidays. Holidays are for people that aren't completed by every single other day of their life. Yeah. I'm like, even this weekend, Mother's Day, it's like, if I need a day for my wife to feel validated and appreciated as a wife and a mother, then I have failed the other 364 days of the year. That should already be baked into my daily cycle.
Right.
And that's just how I look at things. And I actually think success is really, really boring. And that's what makes it awesome and predictable.
And predictable. Yeah. Because everybody's seeking the big flashy success. And the truth is it's not as cool as you think it is once you get there. It's funny with most people, right? We have this dream of what money will provide for us. The truth is, like, a house is a house is a house. It doesn't matter what you're in. It's a house, right?
Yeah. All the flashy stuff I have in my life right now is just backdrop for ads.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually funny. Like, I saw this review of me the other day online, and it was this lady, some dorky site. And she was like, she was trying to analyze my story and compare it to the images she sees of me in my ads. And she's like, well, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if he's really done as well as he says, because based on his house and his backyard and his car, he could achieve that on an upper middle class income. And I'm like, first of all, this is the dumbest analysis I've ever heard. Like Warren Buffett drives a pickup truck to work every day.
Right. Yeah.
But I also recognize that's the world we live in. And so to be honest, I bought my wife a Lamborghini because I'm like, you're going to enjoy this car more than I will, but also I want to have it around so that I can have it in the backdrop of ads. Right. And you can drive an amazing car and feel super loved and cared for every day. Right. But like, I drive the car I want to drive.
Right.
And it's not a Lamborghini.
Is it a Tesla?
And I don't need it so that some, half-ass affiliate marketer who's trying to write a spam review, pretending to have insight into my life can critique me based on the car that I drive. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just proof that they're not, they don't understand success to the fullest. I mean, of the fact that it depends on what success is to you. And that's what's fun about interviewing people is I get to see that, right? And you get the same thing. You're having interviewed so many people is you get to see how do people classify their own success. And I love seeing that. And I do want to take a quick pivot here too, because as I was diving into my research and everything, I'm going to sound like I haven't researched you at all once I do this, but Adam, I think is his name, the CEO of EntreNation. Yeah.
Yeah. My partner.
How the heck did you find Adam? Like, how did you decide, hey, he was the man to be the CEO for that company?
Yeah. it's funny. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16. And actually I've had business partners pretty consistently since I was 16. I mean, certain things I've done myself, certain things I've bought into, or there was already an established owner, other things I started and brought on partners, other things I merged with other people. I've had probably 15 different businesses at this point. And at least, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them, maybe more, had some level of partnership. And to date, I've only had 2 partners that two partnerships that I would ever really do again. And Adam is the second of those 2. And I think you just have to be so careful. I mean, literally if you choose a business partner, it's going to have as big an impact on your life as who you choose as a spouse, literally. And, the way I found Adam, and I was actually at a point where I was kind of over the whole idea of business partners. Right. But when I really started to realize the opportunity and the scope of what I was trying to do with Entre, I was like, I just need an integrator. I'm fairly schooled in the EOS philosophy of visionaries and integrators. And I realized like I can be an okay integrator, and the integrator duties will also constrain me as a visionary, or I can go full visionary and I can find myself an amazing integrator. But that in and of itself is a huge gamble unless you have just the right person. And I was just lucky that I had just the right person. Adam and I had been an affiliate of a program that he built. So I knew his wizardry for building systems and running organizations. I knew his integrity. You learn a lot about a person by being one of their affiliates. And I knew how he treated people. So I knew a lot about his intangibles. And then he had been a consultant for one of my businesses. So I had gotten to experience him purely as a value-based service provider and really measure him by the wisdom and the intelligence of his insight. And he scored so highly on that front. So I kind of had this unique set of experiences with him that gave me the confidence to call him and go, listen, dude, I think I have identified a massive opportunity. There's plenty of room for both of us to have all our dreams come true and then some. And I would love, I need a partner because it's more than I think I'm going to it's not that I couldn't do it myself. It's that I couldn't do it as well myself. Like, I think that owning half of what we could do together will end up being greater than owning all of what I could do myself. Right. And it was a simple phone call. And it took 2 hours for me to download my vision of what I thought Entre could become. And by the end of that 2 hours, I had my marching orders for how to go build the MVP to the market. And he had his marching orders for how to go extricate himself from all other partnerships and ventures that he was involved in so that, within a few weeks, we could be 100% focused on this. And that was almost 3 years ago and almost $100 million in sales ago.
That's awesome. The reason I asked that question too, and I appreciate your answer on that, is that that, like you said, it is so important. I feel like the way that somebody chooses partners and the way they go about identifying who to partner with actually speaks a lot to the way that they are as a person, and what their values are. And so I thought that was really, I love asking that question because I wanted to see, like, how did you actually go about it? I have my business partner is my brother. We've been in business for, I think, 10 years now together. And he's the operations guy because I am so unorganized. Yeah, anyways, I need somebody to ground me. So he does that. But what's been so intriguing is that our business partnership has been a fantastic partnership, even when we've been told, hey, don't partner with your siblings or whatever. And
Right.
I've had no problems with it to this point. But it spoke a lot to like the way that we run our company. So I was just kind of curious how you had done yours. And, we are coming up to the end of the interview here, and I do want to ask just a couple more questions to you, Jeff, before we hop off of here. So
Sure.
The first one is, if you think about the success of your life and you think about just success as a whole, and you were to say, okay, I have my pillars in my life, right? You talked about physical, personal, and professional. If you were to say to our audience, what that number one pillar is for you in your life that you feel like is the most pivotal, what do you think that would be and why?
Yeah. So we organize, and I say we, I mean Entre. And when I say Entre, I mean me, because I sort of rolled out the basic frameworks that became the intellectual property foundation of everything that we've done. Right. So it literally started with how I organize my own life. And I look at, I talk about physical, personal, and professional. I have really strong convictions about this, and it derives from my own experience of being a very fit, focused person, and also a very out of shape, undisciplined loser of a person. And I use that term with a lowercase L. I'm not, whatever. We all have our struggles, but the version of me that doesn't take care of himself physically is such a piece of crap degenerate that it terrifies me to even be him for a day. I never miss a day because I'm so terrified of who I am capable of deteriorating into. I know him well, and he sucks. And his keystone habit, if you read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, there's these habits that we call keystone habits. They're the primary habits, the a priori habits that become the precursors to all the other good habits we need to have in our lives. And for me, it is physical discipline. It is diet and exercise in its most basic and unsexy level. And so when we built the framework that became Entre, we picture the 3 Ps as 3 concentric circles: physical, then personal, then professional, in that order for a reason. And you know how, like, when you get out of rehab, I don't know, like you do when you get out of rehab, right? So when you get out of rehab, they say, look, before you get a girlfriend, get a goldfish. And before you get a goldfish, get a plant. Prove that you can take care of something that doesn't even have a respiratory system before you actually have an animal that depends on you. And then prove you can take care of an animal before you have a human that depends on you. Like, there's this order of proving to yourself that you have the ability to care for things, right? Physical, personal, and professional is that applied to life. That's universal. If I cannot get up early or whenever, whatever, live a disciplined life of routine and structure that creates the space to take care of myself physically, because this is the one and only body I'm going to be issued. This is the one and only battery pack for all that I choose, all that I wish to do in this world. This is my source of energy. This is my source of strength, and I'm not taking care of it. I actually question that you even have the right to go into the market and with integrity ask for $1 for anything, because you can't even take care of yourself. And I'm supposed to believe as your customer that you're going to take care of me? Who are you kidding? Are you deluding yourself, or are you lying to me? Because one of us is being fooled, right? And so I look at it in that sequence. Prove that you can take care of yourself, then spill that over to your family or your personal, your direct relationships, people that you actually talk to every day. Like, how do you make people feel? First of all, make yourself feel good by taking care of yourself. Spill that over into how you make people around you actually feel. And I see so many people, especially in entrepreneurship, they're trying to skip to the end of the line where it's like, I want millions of dollars and I want thousands of customers, but I take care of myself like crap. And honestly, I'm not even that great to the people that live under my own roof.
Right.
I don't think you even deserve success if that's your life. And so put things in their proper sequence: physical, then personal. And honestly, if you can't take great care of yourself, don't do somebody the disservice of getting into a relationship with them. And please don't do the children the disservice of having them. When you're not modeling good habits and good self-care, what are you teaching your kids? And how are you showing up for your spouse when you can't stop eating cheeseburgers? Right? Like, it's hypocrisy, and nobody wants to say it, and nobody wants to live it, and nobody wants to be the asshole that blurts this out on a podcast, but it is incontrovertible facts that in our heart of hearts, we know is a profound truth. So get it right, or go to therapy until you can, and stop dragging other people into your stuff, especially customers that you don't even have the fuel to be able to serve because your body can't hold a charge because you've abused it so badly.
Yeah,
I believe that. I believe it, like, to my core, is almost like a religious level of dogma, and I won't apologize for it. And by the way, since I've started espousing it unapologetically, I've seen thousands and thousands of entre students completely transform their lives and produce almost counterintuitive level outcomes where they're like, man, I never imagined that taking care of myself physically would start to improve my marriage. And then I never imagined that investing in my marriage would make me a better business leader. And all of a sudden they're making all this money and they're like, wow, I clearly had the cart and the horse confused because I didn't realize it started in the gym and then led to love of my loved ones. And then, and only then, into successful customer treatment. And it's like, I don't know, man, that's not popular. And maybe it sounds even mean, but I'd rather be mean than dishonest.
Yeah. Well, a good coach says it like it is, right?
Yeah. And mean is a harsh word, but that's other people's interpretation of things they don't want to hear sometimes.
Yeah. So, and to me, I'm like, the truth cuts those the deepest who don't want to believe it. Right. And the truth is, like, I 100% agree with you, just because of in my own life, right? Based on my physical health, that is when my ebbs and flow of success have been. Every time I start getting chunkier, everything else starts to go down, because I think, to me, your physical body is an outward representation of what's happening internally a lot of times. And yes, there are some different, conditions or whatever that might cause health issues. But I'm under your same opinion as well, where I do believe that taking care of yourself physically, spiritually, emotionally, it guides you into solving all of those other issues with business and relationships and everything else.
Yeah. And let me say this, like, people know. They know. Look, I mean, I'm not here to, like, people have different medical conditions, and God, if I hear about another thyroid condition, is like, well, I can't stay in shape because of my thyroid. Like, I have low thyroid. They have supplements for that. Right. Like, but everybody knows deep down if they're in integrity with their self-care or not. And it's not for anyone else to judge. I'm not the judge. You don't have to please me. Do it for yourself.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, and Jeff, I just want to ask you one this would just be my final question, I guess. First off, everybody, make sure you go check out Entre Nation if you haven't heard of it, which I'd be surprised if you hadn't at this point, but make sure you go check it out. 150,000 students strong. Is that correct?
It's about 237,000, I think.
Right now. Wowza. Yeah. Look at you guys go. 237,000 successful students. Obviously, it's a place to be. So make sure you guys go check it out.
Actually, I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah.
We have many students that are not successful. We have many students that don't even log in. We have many students that buy our training the way some people buy clothes or fitness equipment and shove it under their bed and never use it. Like, there's a lot of people that love the dopamine hit of buying things that could be a solution if they'd use them and then don't. So I don't want to misrepresent that all of our students are successful. All of our students have successfully purchased something and gotten that little dopamine rush of woulda, coulda, shoulda. Maybe I'll change my life, but they don't all do it.
Yeah. And I would go deep down that rabbit hole, but
I would love to some other time.
Some other time. So I am curious about that. The numbers are always intriguing to me on that. But Jeff, what's next for you personally? I mean, you know, you've already put in place like your big goals, but what's next and got you excited right now?
I actually feel like my life is really, really going places, because what's next is just more of the same, which is to say slow, methodical, iterative evolution through more and more levels of the same game. Because when you're playing the game that completes you, you don't need to play any other games. You just want to keep ascending. And I knew I was starting to get my life in the right place when I didn't really have any cool answer to that question. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, keep growing, at this point, my life has basically become an excuse. I would call it an absurdization of excuses experiment. I am trying to render everyone else's excuses absurd in the context of what I do every day with my life. Because I've been broke, I've been homeless, I've been depressed, I've been overweight, I've been twice divorced, I've been shunned, I've been ostracized, I've been traumatized, I've been bullied, I was born with a genetic condition, I had low self-esteem. Like, I've been through most of it. Not everybody's got their own unique permutation of problems, but like, I've seen enough of the shadow. I've danced with it, and I'm rendering it obsolete through success and performance and accomplishment and ultimately fulfillment, which is the only reason to do any of it. And I hope that my life just continues to be a bigger, brighter, shinier mirror in which everybody else can see the fallacy of their own excuses and shortcomings and take the challenge to do better. And I find that drives me, that motivates me. And maybe somebody would say, oh, well, you're just trying to show off. No, I'm trying, like, I've already proved my own doubters wrong for me. Now I'm trying to prove them wrong for you too.